All right, good morning. Welcome to Zenglup, the podcast, music, poetry, psychogeography. Just give me a second here. This sound, longtime listeners will recognize that sound. It is my thermos. There we go. And for those of you watching on YouTube, on the almost live stream, you just saw me fill up my coffee cup with here. Nice fresh coffee. So for those of you on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Podcasts come out every other day or so, Tuesdays and Thursdays, occasionally on a Friday. And those of you listening on a podcast app, go to the website, zenglup.net, and subscribe to my newsletter. So today, we're going to talk about Alan Watts, or at least an idea from Alan Watts. Alan Watts, an important figure from the 60s, 70s, psychedelic meditation, insight, visionary side of things. I'm reading a book called The Book. It's his compelling argument about the nature of the self, I guess, if I were to summarize a very big topic. It's not a big book, but it's a big topic. But today, so there's one thing he says in there that today I thought I would dig in, and the idea that he was sharing was that you need the trough in the wave, right? So we see a wave as we see the positive sides. Literally the positive, the above zero side of the wave, and we assume that then the below zero side, the negative side of it, doesn't exist. When we look at phenomena that follow cyclic patterns, it's easy for our instinctual mind to look at that and think it is there, it is not there. There seems to be a sort of hardwired object impermanence problem, right? We know the sun is still there, but we don't see it, and so we say it's nighttime. Now this got me thinking about our cycles. Right, if you take the trough away from a wave, you don't have a wave, you have a line. Right? And you might even just have zero. You don't keep the +1 if you take out the -1 on a sine wave. If you take out the amplitude. If you don't keep the positive amplitude if you take out the negative amplitude. You simply don't have a wave anymore. You have nothing. So where this comes into play in terms of meditation is when I'm sitting on the cushion and I'm breathing. I may be concentrating on my breath. Maybe I'm doing a focus practice where I'm counting breath. I'm observing the motion of my mind and my thoughts around the object of my breath. My breath is a touch point. My goal is to be focused entirely on the experiencing of my breath, on the counting of my breath. And as I notice other thoughts arising, I allow those thoughts to arise, to abide, and then to dissolve without breaking my concentration on my breath. My breath is a cycle. It's in and it's out, and there's a pause at the base of the breath. If I didn't have the exhalation, I couldn't have the inhalation. It is not two separate gestures. It is one part, one gesture, two parts of one gesture. The image that Watts uses that I quite like is you can look at the head of a cat. It's kind of like the elephant in the Six Blind Men, right? You could look at the head of a cat. You could look at the tail of a cat. In fact, now I remember, he brings this up kind of in a flatland experiment. Imagine you're looking through a fence that has a vertical slit, and a cat walks by, and you see a cat head, and you think, whoa, what a wonderful, weird thing that is. And then you look again, and you see a tail. Like, wow, look at that weird tail thing. And with that narrow vertical slit view, you've seen a head and a tail. But what you've really seen is a head-tailed cat. He combines those two words, head-tailed, because that's his thing in this book, is that our experiences are these artificial dissections of connected phenomena that we then say are caused or affected by what is really part of that same object. So my breath is not an inhale and an exhale, it's a breath. I know this is it seems like I'm belaboring a point here, and I am. I should move on. I inhale, I exhale, that's a breath. That is the breath. There is not an inhale and then an exhale. That's two separate artifacts. The same way there's not a head and a tail separate from the head-tailed cat. So my breath is this oscillation. And based on my experience of past oscillations and my experience of current oscillations, I expect that oscillation to continue. That expectation of continuation is where we can run into problems, right? But so up and down every 20 seconds or so, an oscillation. Within that is the beat of my heart, right? So you can start to see now this two-layered pattern, beating of the heart, doo-dum, 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 doo-dum. The breath underneath it, kind of waving along at about, I'm going to say 3 heartbeats per breath cycle. Probably not quite right, but you get the point. And then there's cycles that occur within my waking phase, right? I eat, I digest, I shit. There's a sort of grosser metabolic, not gross in a disgusting sense, I literally mean more heavy, more tangible cycle that occurs within the body that's tied into a routine of metabolism that's at a more physical level than my breath. I drink water, I eat food, my body does things with it. But I've already given the game away here, right? That's within what I would call the waking phase. But there is no wake and then sleep. There is wake-sleep. Right? There is me moving through linear perception of time, wake-sleeping. The same way I'm in-outing my breath, I am wake-sleeping my consciousness. And the ability to keep focused awareness through these pretty obvious immediate transitions, like in and out, keeping focus on the breath, keeping focus on my alimentation through the day, keeping focus as I fall asleep, as I wake up, keeping focus as I sleep. That's a challenge. That's a practice I'm trying to pick up now, the dream yoga. stay focused through the sleep dream phase of the wake sleep. That cycle also based on past understanding, current experience, assumption that weak sleep cycle will continue. My assumption, incorrect, is that it will continue forever, but it won't, right? If I've got my heartbeat and my breath, and my alimentation, and then my sleep, these could be written down on a piece of paper as a series of sine waves with expanding periods. Right? The period is the time it takes for the waveform to complete one cycle. Why would that pattern only be applicable to every part of my being up to my wake sleep, but not beyond? There's a sine wave implied in my life, in your life, in our mortality, that has a period equal to the lifespan. It's more complicated than that, right? Because lifespan is a variable. But why wouldn't I assume that the trough of that cycle, what we call death, mortality, the death state, why would that be? Why would that behave differently than any other wave that's part of our existence? We've sort of split this alive, not alive conception of our live dead, or live deading, live deading. I'm not even sure what the word would be, or being, capital B, being. The cause and effect relationship, or the dissected phenomena between alive and dead, it seems to be that has to be artificial. So the task that Alan Watts set himself is to plant a seed through this book, the book, that suggests there's a way to just step outside that cycle, just long enough to realize that it's there, and then kind of let it go. Our cultural anxiety, and I will talk in those kind of broad terms, although I know that they're not 100% useful. Our alienation from that cycle is debilitating. I feel that. I think probably a motivating factor of my meditation practice is to try to get into a healthier dynamic, my relationship with that understanding of that cycle. I don't expect to know what it means. I'm not saying that. But to just have a better physical sense that there's a thing that we're a part of. I feel that quite strongly, whether it's humans as part of the world, whether it's consciousness as part of other consciousness. I don't know, but it's a driving factor in my practice. So Alan Watts, the book. Check it out. Again, remember to subscribe to the video channel here. And if you have questions, drop me a note or comments or criticisms. drop me a note, zenglop@gmail.com. Keep your wits about you. Talk to you later.